Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be doing an in-depth review. I'm going to be starting a new series of in-depth reviews of K-pop albums and K-dramas. Today we're going to be covering the famous girls' generation, The Boys. The Boys is a repackage from Mr. Taxi, one of their most famous albums of all time, if not their most. From a general standpoint, this is a good pop album. It's jack of all trades, great in a lot of areas, but unfortunately isn't super stellar in any one category. The best part about this album to me is the catchiness. Almost all of these songs you might end up finding yourself singing along with it and it getting stuck in your head. Most tracks here play off of that intent and in my opinion is generally successful. The album starts out already with one of my favorite songs, The Boys. I love the production here because it's heavy in percussion and buzzsaws, and to spice it up they pepper in shaker samples and gated synths everywhere. And I also want to note during the bridge the production becomes very stripped back. The bridge reminds me of cheerleading in that it's a bunch of chants added on top of only drums and snares. When it comes to the vocals of the song, I'll be honest, it's not the most vocally demanding song I've ever heard. Rather, like I said before, the strength lies in its delivery and its catchiness. And I think the playful tone that Girls' Generation takes throughout this entire song complements the experimental and industrial style production as well. You can tell even from a first listen that the track is very airtight and the creative process behind it is very high quality. To some people it might not be jaw-dropping at a first listen, but when you go deeper into it, it's actually quite genius. Then from there we transition into more dance-centered music with Telepathy. Production here is also crisp, has a synth piano as the main focal point. In my opinion, a great choice as it also helps set the rhythm. And it also plays off well with the acapella. The rhythm and the syncopation of the singing ride the beat very smoothly. Overall, it's a decent dance track and a respectable B-side to the album. We transition to a lot more aegyo with Say Yes. It's a good song, and if you ever go to karaoke, I think this will be great to sing along to. It has a schoolgirl crush feel, and I can't deny my ears, the song is catchy as hell. What really stood out to me here was the vocals. I thought the harmonization throughout was great. Beautiful lead singing, of course, but the backing vocals are also extremely nice, almost to the point where if they wanted to, it could hold up as an acapella, which is also great because it shows off more of the girls' range as well as their beautiful vibrato. Despite having a corny ass intro, this song is pretty musically sound and is nonetheless catchy. Trick is a U-turn back into the heavier EDM style. What really pops out in the first 10 seconds was the heavy buzzsaw, and it's impressive to me how they were able to process out that harsh, buzzy texture of the bass into a more silky smooth finish. That is very difficult to do. I also want to touch back on the singing. The lower pitch register for the vocals were a great compliment to the dominant bass. Also, this was a nice touch in instrument choice. Also, it's really nice to note that whenever the members went to the higher registers, they also added an alto pluck. Beautifully emphasizes that contrast between the higher register and lower register. Last thing I wanted to touch was the gated effect on the synth. It was also a very nice touch, gave the entire song a club feel. Since the last two songs were brighter and more upbeat, having a song like this is a refreshing change. Now I say that, but then the song right after this is How Great Is Your Love, arguably one of their brightest songs in this album. Production wise, the layout is pretty standard, using piano and guitar as the main accompaniment, but what I really appreciated was the added strings to help emphasize the feelsiness, because this is more of a ballad centered track. That being said, the punchy drums greatly liven the sound, so the song doesn't feel as slow and as unenergetic. And of course, with all slower songs in K-pop, the vocals really shine through here. One great thing to note is that there's a lot of runs here. Good use of backing vocals as it got rid of a lot of unused space and it made the whole acapella feel much fuller. It's one of the songs in the album that's more so a jack of all trades. Solid on a lot of points, but nothing really outstanding. Then we get to My J, another aegyo song. The song overall is very bubblegum, especially with the big priority to the higher register and heavy use of bells. Very reminiscent to Kitty songs that you heard back then. Super soft bass, almost to the point where I don't even know if it's there or not. One really cool thing that they added here was around the second verse, they add in an electronic kick layer, adding in other sound effects that remind you a lot of video games. I'm a gamer myself, so hearing that change of percussion was really nice. The vocals are super aegyo. I don't think I need to get any deeper than that. Despite the overly cuteness and the baby-esque tone, as I've said before, this is actually one of my favorite songs in the album. What's great about it is that it's unapologetically peppy and bright. It almost forces you to like it. With Oscar, I'm a bit biased towards this sound due to my love of FX, and this track reminds me a lot of their music. But unfortunately for me, it wasn't as well executed as FX usually does. Production-wise, for a track like this, I would like the kick to be more prominent. For me, there wasn't enough lows, not enough bass. However, the vocals help make up for that a little bit. To me, they carry the song. It's the same infectious delivery from the boys, making the whole thing much more enjoyable to listen to. I will say though, the processing is a bit weird at times, almost sounding a bit off pitch. If I'm being completely honest, Oscar isn't a favorite of mine in this album. On the positive note, it picks up a little bit with the next song, Top Secret. This song moves away from the electronic genre and more so into jazz. By far their stronger genre in my opinion. The vocals are great because there's a lot of sass. I love sass. I love attitude in music. Side note, it's also funny to note that the bass here is stronger than Oscar. Oscar's electronic electronic song and Top Secret is the jazzier song. I just thought that was funny. I love the summer clav that comes up occasionally. The horns are also beautifully used. Not playing 24/7, but they show up just enough to reestablish their presence. Popping in at the highest points of the song, they're like the cherry on top. Definitely one of the stronger tracks here, and shows again that jazz is their strongest genre, in my opinion. The album unfortunately takes their biggest dip with Lazy Girl, by far their weakest song. At this point, this cutesy Aegyo sound has been done multiple times already with previous tracks, Say Yes and My J, and they've been done much better. The production, I have similar gripes with Oscar, not enough bass, the kick isn't really there. There's not really any attention grabbers in any instrument, and also doesn't really take a break with their vocals either. This is their weakest chorus in the album, the least memorable to me. It's pretty mediocre compared to the other performances. It's okay, but it's easily the low point of the entire project. Then you have the last of the few ballads, Sunflower. As someone who doesn't particularly like ballads or particularly listens to them every day, this was enjoyable. The lead piano throughout is absolutely stunning. The kick actually had substance too. It had just enough reverb to be present, and it's backed up well by the bass guitar. The snares and the hats are pretty and light. For the most part, the beat is beautiful. One thing I will note though is that sometimes when the chorus comes, the guitars, in my opinion, could have been toned back a bit. There were a lot of guitars at multiple segments of the song. For me, it felt a bit cluttered with too much sound, but really that's me kind of nitpicking. Vocals wise, this song showcases their singing the best. Not much to say here other than they're fantastic singers and it was a gorgeous performance. I imagine Sunflower would slap in a K-drama soundtrack. It doesn't matter what I'd be watching. It doesn't matter if the K-drama I was watching was absolute trash. If a song like this came out, I'd probably be in tears. Make no mistake, it's a beautiful song. However, overall, still not really anything I go out of my way to listen to. One song that I will be going back to regularly is Vitamin, one of the album's strongest songs by a mile. This song is a joy from beginning to end. As far as production goes, this is their best produced song. It starts off with this heavily delayed processed piano into a beautiful orchestra section with ethnic kicks and claps, topped off at the end with a gorgeous harp glissando. I could play that part over and over and over again. Vitamin is a fantastic fusion of dance, classical, jazz, and oddly rock. This easily has the most amount of instruments in one song, but what was great is that despite having so many instruments and so many sounds, it never really felt drowned out. It still sounded clean. The mastering and more specifically the layering of this song is nothing short of genius, and it doesn't droop at all with their singing either. This is their most animated performance. I love their peppy energy throughout. That attitude brought in so much more flair. Unsurprisingly, because of that, Vitamin has one of their most catchy choruses. In fact, I don't even say Vitamin anymore. I say Vitamin. The Boys concluding as it started, we have Mr. Taxi, a song with a lot of similarities to The Boys, in a good way, mind you. Like The Boys, it goes for a more raw EDM direction. Its main focus is on the lower and mid frequencies. For a center, it has a saw bass line with very strong percussion here. The vocal delivery is punchy with plenty of energy and sass. Take everything I enjoyed from songs like The Boys and Vitamin and basically apply it here, and it's the same. A very strong ending to the album, easily a top 5 song, if not a top 3 for me. Overall, guys, it's a jack of all trades album. When people listen to this, more likely than not, they're gonna find something that they like out of here. Which makes sense when you think about it. It's because it's meant to be more of a mass appealing album rather than focusing on creating the craziest songs. It's not a bad thing inherently, but there are some downsides that come to that. Unfortunately, there isn't really any mind-blowing, jaw-dropping aspect of this album here. Unless you include their visuals, then I guess that would count. But if we're talking from a pure musical standpoint, this album isn't going into the legendary category anytime soon for me. This album gets a respectable 6 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. Did you agree? Did you disagree with my review of this? I'll see you guys later. Bye!